Week 6 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. Aubrey, the last couple weeks, Cowboys have been scoring more touchdowns than field goals. But Brandon Aubrey, we know he could kick the football from anywhere. Once again, Dallas has a good matchup at Carolina where their defense really isn't that good. And I think Cowboys, they could be in the red zone early and often. And like I said, Brandon Aubrey, 55, 60 yards isn't a problem at all for him. Number 2, Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this week, a good matchup versus San Francisco where they're bend but don't break type of defense at times. And Chase McLaughlin's been going out there over the last few weeks and really putting up some major fantasy points, double-digit fantasy points 3 weeks in a row. Good matchup versus San Francisco. And Tampa Bay, they've been a better offense at home over the last couple seasons than they've been on the road, even though last week they went out there and put up 38 points at the Seattle Seahawks. But McLaughlin, he's been an accurate kicker after he was off to a slow start first couple weeks of the season. And this week, I like him as a top 2 option. Number 3, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Boswell, we know he's got a big boot. We know he's been one of the better kickers of all time, especially from 50-plus yards. And this week, a good matchup versus Cleveland where they're bend but don't break type of defense. And this could be a grinded-out AFC North type of matchup. So Boswell, like I said, we've seen it already this season, some big games out of him. And this week, it wouldn't be surprising if he has a double-digit day. Number 4, Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now with Amari Hampton, another big weapon out in this offense and down 2 offensive linemen, this team I think is going to have trouble in the red zone scoring touchdowns, and that's where obviously Cameron Dicker comes in and is going to get opportunities. So I know this Miami Dolphin defense isn't any good. I know Dicker is going to get his chances regardless in this one, but the last couple weeks his points have been down a little bit as Cameron Dicker, but we know as well he's one of the more accurate kickers of all time from 50-plus yards. So this week in Miami, if they fail to reach the end zone a couple times, I think Dicker will have some good opportunity. Number 5, Jake Bates of the Detroit Lions. Time you have a kicker, high-powered offense, they're going to get opportunities, but also sometimes they're going to be only kicking extra points. But this week at Kansas City, we know they're good defense as Kansas City. I think Bates will get a few field goal opportunities. It could be a high-scoring game, obviously, between these two good offenses. So this week, I think Bates, he'll have more than the 5-6 points he usually gets of late, where some field goals he might have to be forced to kick. Number 6, Will Lutz of the Denver Broncos. So this week, a good matchup in London, a good field to kick the football. And also the New York Jets give up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So this New York Jet team, one of the worst defenses in the league. They can't stop anyone. And also Denver, they're an offense that stalls out at times. So Will Lutz, I know the numbers haven't been great this season where he's scoring anywhere 6-7 points on average per game, but this week with a good matchup versus the Jets that give up a lot of points to kickers, I like him as a good streaming top 6 option. Number 7, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. So like I said earlier, I believe this could be a high-scoring game between these two dynamic offenses. And Harrison Butker, he's been a great kicker for many seasons, obviously, for this Chief team. I know last week he was only down to 4 extra points in that game for Kansas City, but this is a good offense again this season. Patrick Mahomes is playing great football, and I think Harrison Butker, he could go out there this week versus this Detroit Lion team in Kansas City, where Arrowhead, he's been good kicking the football throughout his career. Have another solid game. Number 8, Brandon McManus of the Green Bay Packers. So I think Green Bay is going to put a lot of points on the board in this one. Cincinnati, they can't stop anyone defensively. And McManus, we know 50-plus yards. He's always been good kicking that football. So Green Bay, Jordan Love's playing good this season. Josh Jacobs having a nice season. Romeo Doubs had a breakout game in Week 4 at the Dallas Cowboys. So I think with the offense clicking and a great matchup versus a bad Cincinnati defense, McManus is a good kicking option this week. Number 9, Joshua Carty of the Los Angeles Rams. He's on a high-powered offense. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams. You're going to be in the red zone more times than not. A lot of ball games. But last week, Joshua Carty definitely was shaky versus the 49ers. Still finished with 6 fantasy points was Carty. And this week at Baltimore, defense that can't stop anyone. And with a lot of injuries in that secondary and on the defensive line, I think once again, Los Angeles, they're going to have their way driving the football down the field and at least getting in field goal range. Number 10, Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jake Elliott, it hasn't been a great season for him, but this week it's a good matchup with the New York Giants. They give up a lot of fantasy points to kickers, and for whatever reason, every time these two teams meet, Jake Elliott has a big game or has a game-winning field goal. Going back years ago, I remember him kicking a 62-yarder to walk it off versus the Giants. So this Giant defense, they've been bad all season long. Teams are going up and down the field versus them. And Philadelphia, we know, is a dynamic offense. I think Jake Elliott goes out there once again versus a team he's had a good career against and has a good fantasy day. Number 11, Matt Gay of the Washington Commanders. Matt Gay, 2 of the last 3 games, double-digit fantasy points. He's in a good offense where he's going to get opportunities, obviously, with this Washington Commander team. And Jaden Daniels returned last week, which is a huge plus. And also, as well, Terry McLaurin possibly might return to the lineup this week. So in a matchup versus Chicago, where their defense isn't all that great, Kicks have had solid seasons versus this defense, and this could be a high-scoring game between these two teams. I think Gay has a good possibility of scoring 7-8 fantasy points. And the 12th and final kicker I'm ranking is Nick Folk of the New York Jets. At Denver, they give up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And Nick Folk, he's having a good year for this New York Jet team. 3 out of 5 games so far this year, double-digit fantasy points. Oh, he could show the distance as well, kicking a 58-yarder a few weeks ago at the Miami Dolphins. In this game in London, I think the Jets still put some points on the board, even though this is a good Denver Bronco defense. And Nick Folk, like I said, you could trot him out there up to 60 yards. And I think they'll be confident, even at 40 years old, put it through the uprights. And the Jets know they got to score in this game to keep up with this Bronco offense. That's a top 12 kickers I'm ranking for week 6 of the fantasy football season.